All right, the tools that you're gonna need are the kidney rib, and it can have the corner on it or not. These are just modified triangle ribs that I needed to make so that I had more of the kidney ribs. You want a wood knife and all the other normal tools. All right, I have 2 pounds of clay. Sort of normal setup. Ooh, I really missed the middle on that one. Try to get in the middle as possible and round. And then again, just like with any other demo, just sort of watch my body position. And these days I need to record it from, this way. This way you can actually sort of see my hand position, hopefully if my shoulder's not blocking it. Okay, get your elbow in your hip. You're gonna push forward, you're gonna pull back. Okay, I'm gonna bring that clay up. This is stiff clay. And I just kind of squish it up into a cone. You can see this is 2 pounds, it's getting a little bit more clay. If you want a decent sized bowl, it should probably be at least 1.5 pounds, maybe 2 pounds of clay. Okay, and then when I push it down, I kind of push forward a little bit. Sometimes I'll either have to pull back or push forward. I'll push forward on this one. Push down, and then I push forward. You see I center the top part of the clay. And then as I get closer to the wheel, I lean in harder, and you do it nice and slow so that it doesn't go off center as you're pushing it down. Okay, I'm not quite on center here. Stiff clay takes another second to get it on center. Okay, so you can see I'm not starting out with like a crazy wide centered piece of clay. Even with the bowl, I still like to have kind of a narrow foot. If I wanted a bowl with a really wide foot, I would center it a little wider. If I want a bowl with a narrow foot, I'm going to center it narrower, okay? Okay, so just like before, I'm going to drop the hole with my middle finger of my right hand, and I press down with these fingers. Keep your elbows down, or at least your right elbow. Whichever elbow is actually like touching the clay, keep that elbow down on your leg. Okay, so remember how when we were pulling cylinders, I told you that you needed to go down to 1/4 of an inch to make it nice and even in the bottom? Well, that's because we weren't trimming those. Okay, we're going to be trimming these bowls, which means we're going to flip it over, and then we're going to reshape the bottom so it matches the inside, and then we're going to remove clay from the middle. I'll show you that in a sec when I get up from throwing. But in order to do that, we do need to leave a little bit of clay there. So this time we're actually going to leave 1/2 inch of clay. Okay, so we're going to leave it a little, oops, that might even be not quite enough clay. So I can actually push it maybe a little bit in there when I compress. Okay, so that's maybe borderline a little too thin. Okay, so that's about 3/8. I want to leave just a little bit more clay. Okay, when we're making the cylinders, remember we're trying to pull straight back. Well, this one, we're going to go up a little bit. So as I pull back, you get rid of a little of that water in there. You get wet, but not full of water. I'm going to kind of lift my hands back. I lift my hands up as I go back. Okay, and so now I have kind of a dish in the middle. The reason I want to have that is because when I go through the middle of the bowl, I want, like functionally, I want to have that nice round interior. That way when you're going down to scoop the last little bit of your cereal or ice cream or whatever, your spoon doesn't encounter any like pit stops along the way. It can go all the way down to the bottom and scoop it out. Okay, so now I'm going to compress. I probably could have done a little bit better job of wedging this clay, but we'll be alright. There's some lumps in here. Okay, so I'm going to compress it so it has a nice roundness on the inside. Okay. Now I'm going to fold it in. Okay, you notice I'm not really like folding it in super crazy with this particular volcano. I'm just kind of folding the top in. I want to maintain that curve on the inside, and I want that, I want that little groove right there so that I can pull the clay. Okay, first pull is kind of like, it's mostly like the first pull on a cylinder. All right. So basically, I'm just gonna grab from the inside and I'm gonna pull up. But what I'm also gonna do is I'm gonna kind of swoop across the bottom, and then right when I get to the wall, that's when I start pulling. The reason is I want to keep that transition into the wall. I want to keep it nice and smooth transition into the wall. So I swoop across the bottom from the middle to the outside. Once I get to the outside, then I'm going to make my pull. Okay? I'm going to leave the rim a little bit thicker than I would for a normal cylinder, but each pull you need to compress. So I put my fingers around like that, and then I'm going to compress it. So I have some like hard lumps in my clay, so it's probably pulling a little bit uneven. That's okay. Nobody will ever know once I turn the wheel off. Alright. Except it's recorded forever on the YouTubes. Okay, so now when I make my groove on the inside, I'm going to swoop across the bottom and then kind of go in. When I make the groove, I'm always kind of keeping my hands connected. And if you watch the video, when you go back to watch the video, notice where my position is. It's right here. It's right about, I don't know, 430 on the clay. So I'm pushing forward into the clay. So I swoop across, kind of lift up and out, and then I push the clay underneath it. Okay, make sure I still have a curve in there. Okay. When we're making a normal cylinder, remember we try to move the clay up and in, right? This we're doing the opposite. We need to make a bowl, so we're going to pull it out. So the reason why you might be making bowls right now instead of cylinders is because you're pulling the clay out. So now you get to do that, and, it's on and we'll call it on purpose. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in a normal position like this, and as I pull, I kind of use the flat of my finger here to move the clay out. Okay, I'm going to swoop across the bottom. Okay. I use the flat of my finger to kind of move the clay out. I want to get it started in that direction. Okay, now I need to make another groove. So swoop across the bottom, push the clay underneath. Okay, then again, swoop across the bottom and bring that clay up and out. Notice I'm not going to full bowl yet. I don't want to go there quite yet. I want to make sure that my cylinder is nice and even. And even though it's slightly going out, I still want to be able to like look at it and see where like the bulk clay is. All right, now I'm going to get rid of the excess clay on the outside. You want to do this. So I'm just going to hold onto it like a pencil. Sometimes I'll hold on the inside so I can sort of feel it go down. Or you can just hold on to the whole tool like this, start above the clay, and move it down to the wheel. And then I just kind of peel it off like that. You can try to go back to the video and watch how I do that. Okay, I kind of want the outside. I'm not going to compress the outside of this one because I want to like leave some throw marks. So I'm going to kind of purposefully put some irregularities in the surface there. Okay, so this is going to be kind of a ramen style bowl. Alright, so now, normally when you're shaping, you have your left hand on the inside, just like when you're pulling, and then you kind of compress on the outside with maybe a metal rib or your fingers, or vice versa. Maybe you use your fingers on that inside and then compress with the metal rib on the outside. This one, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold onto the rim like this, and I'm actually going to use my right hand to do the bowl. And I kind of get it. I wonder if you can actually see that. You can kind of see that. I might have to, when I do, I'll record it from facing this direction for the next class so that you can see it from the other side. I just kind of let the clay go through my left fingers. I kind of rest the rib on my right hand, and the clay is leaving the rib. It's kind of leaving like that. I'm not scraping it. It's not going into the rib like this, it's leaving the rib like that. I get my rib up, and I'm going to pivot kind of on my thumb, and I drop the rim down. I move the shape into the bowl. Okay, I drop the rim down and move the shape into the bowl. Okay, at this point I kind of want to compress my rim again. You can see my hands are always together when I'm doing these things. Okay, I'm just about to where I want it to be. Let's go out just a little bit more here. I'm gonna go in. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll flare this out and I'll kind of define that, and then I'll define the inside, and right where they kind of come together, I'll kind of like work it that way and work it that way, just so I have like kind of like that defined kind of flange on the rim. This one's just a little bit more of a steady transition on into the inside. Okay, now, I mean, I have a bowl right now, but I want this transition to be a lot smoother here. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold on to my rib like this, and actually maybe I'm gonna switch the side of this so that you can kind of see. Oop. Okay, so now I'm kind of letting the clay move from my fingers here. Actually, I'm gonna hold on to both hands like this, and I kind of create like a crane that kind of comes in with my left hand. And then I'm gonna watch what happens right here. And it's just a little bit of pressure right now. And as I get down towards the bottom, the clay gets a little thicker, so I need a little bit more pressure. And then I get down to the bottom here, and then I press pretty hard, and I just kind of go through the middle. Okay, and that is pretty much that. I have kind of a weird shape here, so I'm gonna push that out. So this is actually kind of a big bowl. It's a good ramen size, I think. I'd eat ramen out of that, I think. I might just straighten this wall just a little bit. You don't want to do too much fussing with it. And notice I'm working with my right hand and just kind of watching this shape. The reason I'm only looking, and you probably noticed I didn't really look at the outside all that much. The reason for that is because it's the inside shape. It's what's inside that counts, right? It's the inside shape that I'm looking at. And then the outside shape might be a little bit lumpy and weird, but I can trim that off later. So I'm not even going to look at that. Just look at the inside curve and make sure that that's really nice so that your spoon or whatever can get all the way down to the bottom. And then make sure you score the bottom. And I don't have my regular wire. I'll just use this wire. It's fine. And then slide it off. We're going to be trimming it, so when you slide it off, it kind of messes up the bottom, which I don't, since we're trimming it doesn't really matter. But if you have enough clay at the bottom, you can kind of like make like a little fork with your fingers here, and then just kind of go around it and lift it up and take it off, and then push those little finger marks back. So that's a bowl. And